ask that we might continue to abide in your presence, and that you might cause us to understand these truths. In Christ's mighty name. Amen. Just a quick summary of what we looked at. We are doing a study trying to show that you can show line upon line with scriptures that when the power comes up to a fortress, it's not entering into the capital city. The capital doesn't, it remains, right? And we went to Isaiah 8. We showed the connection between the vision of Isaiah 7, Isaiah 8, and Isaiah 9, right? We could see that this is one vision. Isaiah 7 talks about a head being a capital, right? Isaiah 8 then talks about a king of the north overflowing and passing through, reaching to the neck. And that expression you find in Daniel 11:40 and Daniel 11:10, identifying the conquest at the time of the end by the king of the north. So you can show that Isaiah 8 is intimately connected with Daniel 11:40 and Daniel 11:10. So in Daniel 11:10, we were told that he overflows up to the fortress. He only gets up to, not into. There's a grammatical distinction. And then we showed that because Isaiah 8 is the same vision as Isaiah chapter 9, right? It's a continuation. For you to have a clear understanding of Isaiah chapter 9, you need to study in connection with 7 and 8. In Isaiah chapter 9, there's a key phrase that's there. It's identifying the birth of Emmanuel. But one of the things that's identified there is the zeal of the Lord of hosts performing it, right? And we showed that you find that expression, the zeal of the Lord of hosts performing it, in 2 Kings 19, right? And 2 Kings 18 and 19 is a fulfillment of Isaiah chapter 8. Because when Isaiah is giving a prediction about the king of the north overflowing and passing through, it was fulfilled in 2 Kings 18 and 19. And in 2 Kings 19, you find that expression, zeal. Therefore, 2 Kings 18 and 19 ought to be studied in connection with Isaiah 7, 8 and 9. You follow? And when we went to 2 Kings 18, where the vision begins, we saw there's 330 precious stones. Combine them, there's 300 talents of gold, 30 pieces of silver. Equaling 330. And we saw that the number 330 is a symbol of what? What's the number 330 a symbol of?
Capital.
The capital. It's connected with the capital. That's what Constantine did here, right? But if I'm not mistaken, I think Cyrus, he divided the river into 360 channels. If I'm not mistaken, maybe someone can look it up. When he's conquering Babylon, it should be 360, which is interesting. It should be, maybe, you know. But you see these 330 pieces of silver here, right? 330 precious stones. And the number 330 has to do with the capital. And you see this king of the north, Assyria, coming up to Jerusalem. It's the same identical expression used in Daniel 11:40. You see that? Assyria comes up to Jerusalem. That's why when he's having a conversation with the people on the wall, the people, he's telling that, let your king come out. Right? Because the king of the north has not entered in. He's not entered into Jerusalem. He's not taken the capital city. That's what we were trying to show. And we're seeing the logic for doing that, right? So when you're going to be able to explain Daniel, if you're going to do a proof text study with someone, that when the king of the north in 1909 comes up to the fortress, it has to show you that the capital remains. Now I'm placing the argument that Jerusalem in 2 Kings 18 and 19 is identifying the church triumphant. It's not emphasizing the king of the south is in Russia. But the principle that's being derived from that prophetic passage is the principle of the fortress. Get my point? While studying the fortress, that's the principle there. But this Jerusalem in 2 Kings is not Russia. It's the church triumphant. But the emphasis is on the fortress, the capital. You follow? Okay. Now, if we go back to 2 Kings 18, there's some things that we're going to see. We've already seen And then Isaiah gives a message, right? That there's going to come a rumor. That rumor is going to cause the armies of Rome to abandon the siege, which becomes a sign. And that sign is the abomination of desolation. When you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, you and Judea flee. Sister White places that at the Sunday law. Right? In 5:13 or something. She places it at the Sunday law. So you can show that the story is the Sunday law crisis. And you have the expression, there's an expression that you have there, which is the day of trouble. And we show that the day of trouble is the day of the Lord. So this controversy between Hezekiah and the king of the north is taking place in the day of the Lord. And the Sunday law is the day of the Lord going onwards. You see that? Okay. And then one of the things that we saw is the hand, which is a symbol of the papacy, how the papacy conquers. Daniel 11:41, he shall enter into the glorious land, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom, Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. Daniel 11:42, he shall stretch forth his hand, and Egypt shall not escape. The hand is a symbol. And there's a constant reference to the hand in 2 Kings 18. A continual reference is made. It's emphasized. And then where we had ended is reproach. What's Sennacherib doing right now? He's reproaching. Right? And what's reproach a symbol of? It's Sunday law, but what does it mean when someone is reproaching?
Blessing.
Is what? When there's reproach, what's happening if you're receiving reproach? Especially if you're a righteous person. Persecution. 1 Peter 4:14. If ye be reproached for the name of Christ, happy are ye, for the Spirit of glory and of God resteth upon you. On your part is evil spoken of, but on their part is evil spoken of, but on your part he is glorified. So those who bear reproach have the name of Christ. You see that? Yeah. If you have the name of Christ, there's reproach. But when you look at Isaiah chapter 4, it talks about reproach. It says, and in that day, right, shall 7 women, and what does the number 7 represent in the Bible? Completion. And what are women? Churches. So what's this identifying?
All the churches.
All churches, complete system of churches, taking hold of one man. Right? You've got, in the Sunday law crisis, you've got 2 taking holds. While other people are taking hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew. Right? But another group is taking hold of the man, of one man. So you've got 2 things, Christ and Barabbas. 2 ensigns being lifted up. A satanic ensign and a godly ensign. And you to take hold of one of those ensigns. You get my point? Right? So they're taking hold of one man, and we can show that that man is the man of sin. That they might be called by his name to take away their reproach. And Revelation 13 tells it about the number of his name. Right? What's the number of his name? 666. That's the number of his name, right? So there's a name that the papacy has, which some other people are being called by when they're entering into covenant with him. A satanic covenant, right? So that their reproach can be taken away, so that they're not persecuted for bearing the name of Christ. So we've got 2 people. One group is receiving the mark of the beast, another group is receiving the seal of God. So here Sennacherib is reproaching Hezekiah. Therefore Hezekiah is a symbol of the righteous, because it's being reproached by the north. Because for you to not be reproached by the north, you need to take his name, which means you are entering into a satanic covenant. But if you are reproached, happy are ye, for the Spirit of glory rests upon you. We see that? Yes. So back to chapter 19. We read the rumor. And we show that the rumor is a sign. And then verse 8 is going to explain how he responds to this rumor. So Rab, 2 Kings 19, verse 8. So Rabshakeh returned and found the king of Assyria warring against Libnah, for he had heard that he was departed from Lachish. And when he had heard of Tirhakah king of Ethiopia, behold, he is come out to fight against thee. He sent messengers
again unto Hezekiah, saying, Thus shall ye speak to Hezekiah king of Judah, saying, Let not thy God in whom thou trustest deceive thee, saying, Jerusalem shall be delivered into the hand of the king shall not be delivered into the hand of king of Assyria. So Jerusalem, he is now saying, look, you survived because of the rumor, right? But don't think that rumor is going to stop you from coming and retaliating, right? He has just fled, right? You see what this is teaching us, right? Jerusalem shall not be taken. The subject here is Jerusalem. We're going to look more when we're covering the sealing over the course of this prophecy school. We want to look at the sealing, the choosing of Jerusalem, the latter rain. It's a subject of Bible prophecy, how to identify Jerusalem contextually, right? I'm arguing that I'm not going to do the choosing of Jerusalem now, but this is Jerusalem. Hezekiah's Jerusalem is the Jerusalem that's been chosen, right? And then verse 11, Behold, thou hast heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all lands, by destroying them utterly. And shall thou be delivered? Have the gods of the nations delivered them, which my fathers have destroyed, as Gozan and Haran, and Rezeph, and the children of Eden, which were in Telassar? Where is the king of Hamath, and the king of Arpad, and the king of the city of Sepharvaim, and of Hena and Iva? And Hezekiah received the letter. So there's a decree, right? You see a decree there. Letters are a symbol of a decree. So Hezekiah received the letter of the messengers and read it. And Hezekiah went up into the house of the Lord and spread it before the Lord. So Hezekiah is going to pray, right? You see, letters are a symbol of, it's a death. This is like not a decree, but this is a decree that's death consequences, right? Same thing that Naboth receives from Jezebel and Ahab. He receives letters that we want to take your vineyard, right? Which is a decree. And Hezekiah prayed before the Lord and said, O Lord God of Israel, which dwellest between the cherubims, thou art God, even thou alone. And of all the kingdoms of the earth, thou hast made the heaven and the earth. Where do you see the cherubim? Which part of the sanctuary?
Most holy.
Most holy place. And I'm arguing that this is the Sunday law, and the Sunday law has been typified by October 22. In October 22, what happens in the temple? It's open. And what do you see in the temple? The ark. But what's above the ark? Two cherubims, right? So you can show these connections. Verse 16, Lord, bow down thine ear and hear. Open, Lord, thine eyes and see. And hear the words of Sennacherib, which thou hast sent, which hath sent him to reproach the living God. So there's reproach, right? There's reproach. Of a truth, Lord, the kings of Assyria have destroyed the nations of their lands, and have cast their gods into the fire, for they were no gods, but the works of man's hands, wood and stone. Therefore they have destroyed them. What's wood and stone? Okay. Now therefore, O Lord our God, I beseech thee, save us out of his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that thou art the Lord, even thou only. Then Isaiah son of Amos sent to Hezekiah, saying, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, that which thou hast prayed to me against Sennacherib king of Assyria, I have heard. This is the word that the Lord had spoken concerning you. The virgin daughter of Zion hath despised thee, and laughed thee to scorn, and the daughter of Jerusalem hath shaken her head at thee. Do you see, Zion and Jerusalem are constantly used interchangeably? You see that, right? Zion, Jerusalem, Zion, Jerusalem. Then verse 22, whom thou hast reproached and blasphemed. Who's the power that blasphemes in the Bible? The papacy blasphemes, right? Yes, Daniel chapter 7. And against whom thou hast exalted thy voice. So what you're seeing there, Rome exalting itself, right? Thy voice, they are lifting up, they are speaking, right? Great things, stout little mouth, right? And lifted up thine eyes on high, even against the Holy One of Israel. By the messengers thou hast reproached the Lord, and hast said, with the multitude of my chariots I am come up to the height of the mountains, to the sides of Lebanon, and will cut down the tall cedar trees thereof, and the choice trees thereof, And I will enter into the lodgings of the borders. What's another word for border?
Neck.
Neck, it's a fortress. He's saying I will enter into. He's attempting to do this. Do you see that? But he is not, he's failing to, but he's attempting. But it's blasphemy. And in the forest of Carmel, I have digged and drunk strange waters, and with the sole of my feet have I dried up all the rivers of besieged places. Hast thou not heard long ago how I have done it, and of ancient times that I have formed it? Now have I brought it to pass, that thou shouldest be to lay waste fenced cities into ruinous heaps. Therefore their inhabitants were of small power. They were dismayed and confounded. They were as the grass of the field, and as the green herb, and as the grass of the housetops, and as corn blasted before it had grown up. But I know thy abode, and thy going out, and thy coming in, and thy rage against me. Because thy rage against me, and thy tumult is come up into mine ears, therefore I will put my hook in thy nose, and my bridle in thy lips, and I will turn thee back by the way which thou camest. And this shall be a sign unto thee. Ye shall eat this year such things as grow of themselves, and in the second year that which springeth up the same. And in the third year sow ye and reap, and plant vineyards, and eat the fruits thereof. Verse 30. And the remnant that is escaped of the house of Judah shall yet again take root downward and bear fruit. Who is the remnant of Judah that is escaped? Isaiah chapter 4. Let's go there. It's identifying Hezekiah and his squad as the remnant that are escaping the hand of this person, of this Sennacherib. Isaiah chapter 4, it's not an accident that it has the same terminology as this passage we're reading, because it talks about the reproach in verse 1. Then verse 2 says, In that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and come of them that are escaped of Israel. And it shall come to pass that he that remaineth in Zion, and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, every one of them that is written among the living in Jerusalem. So Hezekiah and them are emphasizing the remnant that is escaped. It's identifying those that are written among the living, that are called holy. The branch of the Lord that is beautiful and glorious in that day, which is the church triumphant. Isaiah 52 says, Awake, awake, right? Jerusalem, put on thy beautiful garments, thy holy city. So you see, Jerusalem is the what? The holy city. This is Hezekiah and them. It's the holy city. Keep your finger in 2 Kings 19. Let's go to Revelation 21. 21. Revelation chapter 21. Verse 1. Revelation 21, verse 1. 21, verse 1.
And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea.
Verse 2.
And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband.
So, what does Sister White define this Jerusalem as? In GC 426, GC 88, page 426. She says, but she says the capital. GC 426, Great Controversy 1888, page 426, paragraph 2. I have the reference there. She says Jerusalem is the capital, the holy city. You see that? It's called the capital. So when Sennacherib is doing his work, he doesn't enter into where? The capital, right? Different lines, but same emphasis. Different lines, but same emphasis. The capital remains. Because we're showing there's an intimate connection between Isaiah 7, 8, 9, 2 Kings 18 and 19, and Daniel 11, 10. They emphasize different lines of truth, but they teach the same principle of the fortress. Do we follow? So Jerusalem is the capital. So Hezekiah and them here, the Sennacherib doesn't enter into the fortress, into the capital, into Jerusalem. Now let's read on.
And I heard a great
Oh, no. We're at a different verse now. Back to 2 Kings 19. Sorry. 2 Kings 19, I'll read verse 31 and 31. 2 Kings 19, verse 31.
Kings,
Chapter 19, verse 31.
For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of among Zion. The zeal of the Lord of hosts shall do this.
So you see the zeal of the Lord of hosts. We find it in Isaiah chapter 9. I'm sure that Isaiah chapter 9 is a continuation of 8 and 7. Right? Same line of truth. The zeal of the Lord. Now I'm going to read verse 32. Therefore thus saith the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into this city. Do you see that? It's getting clearer. He shall not come into the city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with shield, nor cast a bank against it. By the way that he came, by the same shall he return. He shall not come into the city, saith the Lord. Verse 34. For I will defend the city to save it, for mine own sake, and for my servant David's sake. So, do you see this? For his servant David's sake. That becomes a key phrase. Let's go to 1 Kings 11:13. Kings 11:13. There's that phrase we want to look at. For my servant David's sake. 11:13. 1 Kings 11:13. Yeah, you can read Timbella. 11:13.
Howbeit I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David, my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen.
So you see that there's the servant for his servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem which he has chosen. When we do the study of the choosing of Jerusalem, yeah, I know 9/11, but I believe technically it's from 1989 because of David's 4 anointings. The Lord chooses David progressively. Remember, the Bible says that David waxed greater and greater, and Saul waxed weaker and weaker. You remember yesterday at the sermon, we're being told that Saul had 4 abominations that he practiced. He had a 4-fold fall. But how many anointings did David have? 4. You see that Saul is waxing weaker and weaker, while David is waxing stronger and stronger. The progressive choosing of Jerusalem, right? But we'll be emphasizing the choosing of Jerusalem beginning at 9/11 onwards. But Jerusalem is being chosen in this history. It's for his servant David's sake. The choosing of Jerusalem and the choosing of David are the same thing in the scriptures, right? So this is what's that's being emphasized here. Jerusalem here, Hezekiah and them are being preserved because the Lord has chosen them. I'll read now 1 Kings 11. I'll read 32. Actually 31 and 32 for context. 31 says, and he said to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces, and thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee, but he shall have 1 tribe for my servant David's sake, for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. So you see this choosing of Jerusalem again and his servant David's sake. Right? Verse 36. And unto his son, meaning Rehoboam, will I give 1 tribe, that my servant David might have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen to put my name there. Right? You see this choosing, the choosing of Jerusalem. Now, if you look in 1 Peter, it should be chapter 2. Let's just go there. I don't want to preempt the choosing of Jerusalem, but I just want to make this point. Right? 1 Peter. Chapter 2, verse 4 and 5. Chapter 2, verse 4 and 5. To whom coming as unto a living stone, yes, verse 5. Let me go to verse 5. Ye also as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house and an holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God by Jesus Christ. Wherefore also it is contained in the scriptures, Behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, that he that believeth in him shall not be confounded. What's this cornerstone? It's Christ, but it's the foundation, right? Unto you therefore which believe he is precious, but unto them which are disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner. Verse 8. And a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they are appointed. But ye are a chosen generation. So these are people that are standing on the foundations, right? A chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye shall show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. I'm not going to go further there, but I want you to see that the chosen ones are the stones, right? They're the stones. And then Peter means stone. But Sister White says that the faith of Peter reflected the faith of the disciples. And there were 12 disciples, they have 12 stones, right? Which is another thing. But let's go back to 2 Kings. So Hezekiah and them are identifying the chosen Jerusalem, the church triumphant, the holy nation, right? The white horse of the first seal. That's what they emphasize. So are we done when we go back to 2 Kings 19? Okay, Timbella, you can read verse 35, please. 2 Kings 19:35.
And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Lord went out and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000, and when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses.
Now, what's an angel a symbol of? There's an angel that comes down. A message, right? It's a message. What's another word for message?
Gospel.
Gospel. Again?
Tidings.
Tidings, right? There's an angel that comes down, there's a tiding. And what does this angel do? It destroys Babylon. Like it threshes them, right? It just breaks them in pieces. But when you read the history now, there's some things that are not in the biblical narrative. But when you read the history by Asha, I have the document, he has a document on chronology. He shows that when this happened, Sennacherib was troubled. There was a tiding that troubles him. And when he was troubled, he went forth with great fury and utterly made away many. Yes, that's what the history records. Sennacherib goes on his way after he's been troubled by this angel, this tiding. He goes and he martyrs a lot of Jews on his way out. This is Daniel 11:44. Tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury and utterly make away many. This is exactly the same law of history. But what's identified in the history as well, I don't have notes for this. This was like an impromptu study, so to speak. But from the time when Sennacherib begins to initiate this bloodbath to when he actually ends up dying, because he returns into his own land, is a key thing for us to catch. And he dies there. He dies without entering Jerusalem. And Daniel 11:45 tells us that he shall come, plant the tabernacles of his palace where? Between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. And what? And then it says what? And he shall come to his end with none to help him. So he plants the tabernacles of his palace, church and state, between the seas and the glorious holy mountain, not the glorious holy mountain. He never enters. This is common understanding for if you study Daniel 11, 40 to 45. He never enters Jerusalem. Isaiah chapter 10 tells us about the Assyrian again. And Isaiah 10 says he shall remain at Nob. He says he shall stretch his hand across the daughter of Zion, the heel of the daughter of Zion or something. But he says he shall remain at Nob. He doesn't get to Jerusalem, he remains at Nob. Right? That's the biblical narrative. But it says, the history will tell you that from the time he initiates the bloodbath to when he comes to his end, it was 45 days. Now, it's not an accident, because the bloodbath comes in the history of who? The 45th president. Right? It was 45 days to when he comes to his end. Right? Because, so it's not an accident, it's there. The bloodbath under the 45th president takes place 45 days, all those things. Now, there's something that I want to put in place as well. Sennacherib has been offering reproach, but if he dies, what's happened to the reproach? It ends, right? Because he's the one offering the reproach. Let's read on. Verse 36, I'll read. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went and returned and dwelt at Nineveh. I don't know if I'm straightening it, but I know that Nineveh is between the seas, the Euphrates and the Tigris. So, I don't know. So, in Nineveh, and it came to pass that as he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch, his god, that Adremelech and Sharezer, his sons, smote him with the sword, and escaped into the land of Armenia. And Esarhaddon, his son, reigned in his stead. He has two sons, right? The king of the north has two sons. I know at a prophetic level, you can argue these two sons you mark them here, the sons of the king of the north. But when you're going to apply it in our history, you can identify these sons as emphasizing, because you have a great and a lesser. You have these two sons at the time of the end, right? But you can bring it to the close of probation. And I'm going to make an argument of who these two sons are. Let's look at the meaning of their names. They're the ones that smite him. Do you see that? He's been given reproach, but these sons kill him. Adremelech means glorious king. What's a king in Bible prophecy? It's a ruler, but it's a kingdom. Thou, O king, are the head of gold. So it's a glorious what?
Glorious one.
Kingdom. Which is the glorious kingdom? Huh? The United States, the glorious land, right? But the other one, what's his name? Sharezer, right? It means prince of fire. It means prince of fire, right? Do we see any prince of fire in the Bible that kills the papacy? Yes.
They shall eat your flesh and
Burn it with fire. The 10 kings, they eat your flesh and burn it with fire, right? The prince of fire, because you are given a name according to your character. James and John were called the sons of thunder. Why? Because they wanted to call down lightning from heaven, right? It's the character. So prince of fire, the two sons I'm arguing is the United Nations and the United States, the evil confederacy. These are the two sons that delivered the dead woman to the papacy at the close of probation. This is Daniel 11. Let's go to Daniel 11. 17. Yes.
I want to ask on the board there.
Yes.
Why do you have that Jezreel?
Jezreel. Okay, I had the Jezreel here because this is where Jezebel dies. And when Jezebel died, she died by the wall of Jezreel, and the dogs ate her flesh, which is the same thing that happens to the papacy. So I had it there because Jezreel is a symbol of Megiddo, and Megiddo is between the seas, all those things, right? That's how I put it there, right? Okay, 17. But he shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. That shall he do, and shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her, but she shall not stand on his side, neither before him. So this is talking about Julius Caesar. Now, interesting, some interesting nuances. Julius Caesar was a dictator, right? But when you look at the context of Daniel 11, where do we mark Daniel 11:15, which talks about, okay, let's read it. I want people to follow. Let's go to Daniel 11:15. 15, Are you there, Timbela? Okay, please read.
So the king of the north shall come and cast up a mount and take the most fenced cities, and the out of the south shall not withstand neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand.
Okay, let me read 16. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his will, and none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall be consumed. Where do we mark verse 15? Midnight cry, why?
It's the retaliation of the king of North.
The king of the North, the battle of Panium, right? Which is at the midnight cry. And then verse 16 talks about entering into the glorious land. Where would that be? At the Sunday law. Then verse 17 talks about this king setting his face to enter. He's been conquering the glorious land, etc. Now he's setting his face to enter. Right? With the strength of his kingdom. Historically, when you do a study, what does it mean when a power, where does a power go into when they set their face to enter? If you've been following the series by age. When you set your face to enter, you're entering into Egypt. That's what Jeremiah says if you just type that word. But when you do that, you are setting yourself up for a fall. They shall exalt themselves, but they shall fall. That's what Rome does, right? They exalt themselves, but they end up falling. So verse 15 is highlighting the activities of Julius Caesar. But in this context, Julius Caesar is identifying the conquering of the papacy when he's taking Egypt after the glorious land. Verse 42 of Daniel 11. Do you see that? Because verse 16 talks about the glorious land being taken, Sunday law. Then verse 17 talks about Egypt being conquered by Julius Caesar, who's in the Sunday law history. Now, what's interesting, just some nuances there. Julius Caesar, when did he become, if I'm not mistaken, they call it perpetual dictator. Dictator for life. Does anyone know?
31. Isn't it 31?
That's Augustus, after the Battle of Actium. But Julius Caesar, when did he become dictator for life?
47.
Different, yeah. 44, 47. People give different, but there's one historian I like who says in 45 BC. Right? Yeah, 45 BC. But there's something else that he did in the same year. Under the title, what do they call it? Pax Romana. You know these Caesars, they were also priests. You know that, right? That's where the name Augustus comes from. To be reverenced. You know, these Caesars were like, this is where the Pope, the system of popery came from. It started with this Pax Romana, something like that. But it's a type of a Caesar being sort of like a god. They would actually worship Augustus. That's what Augustus means, to be reverenced. But Julius Caesar had that title. You combine church and state because he was both a king and he was both like a bishop in that history. But what he does in 45 BC is that he introduces the Julian calendar. He changed times and laws. It was the papacy. So it's an interesting nuance, right? Julius Caesar. But then we're told in verse that he does this. Verse 18 then says, after he's conquered Egypt, after this shall he turn his face unto the isles, and shall take many. But a prince on his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach he shall cause it to turn upon him. So there's a prince on his own behalf, one of his princes, one of Julius Caesar's princes, that causes the reproach offered by Julius Caesar to cease. You see that? Same thing that happens to Sennacherib. A prince, these two princes, right? They cause the reproach offered by him to cease, his sons. Right? Do you see that? We're following the logic, right? If you read the next verse, it then says, then it is a repeat and large, then he shall turn his face towards the fort of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. So he returns into his own land.
Yeah.
Same thing that Sennacherib does. You see that, right? But he stumbles and he falls. Where does Rome fall?
Close position.
They shall come to the end with none to help him. Here, Julius Caesar was assassinated here. Right? It comes to his end. Daniel 11:14 says, also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves, but they shall fall. Rome rises to fall. So a prince on his own behalf causes the reproach offered by him to cease. Here, at the close of probation. Rome exalts itself here after the Battle of Raphia, when the United States loses to Russia. The robbers of thy people come in to aid the United States. They begin to exalt themselves. But Daniel 11:36 talks about, and the king shall do according to his will, and shall exalt himself above every god. Right? And he shall prosper until the indignation be accomplished. You see that? Rome prospers until when? The indignation be accomplished. Until the 7 last plagues, the indignation. Yes, Revelation tells us that they're the cup of the Lord's indignation. So Rome prospers until the 7 last plagues, until the close of probation. Then the indignation is accomplished in this history. You see that? This is the same thing that happens to Julius Caesar. He falls there at the close of probation. The reproach offered by him is caused to cease. You see that, right? Now what's interesting is another nuance, is that Sennacherib is murdered, is assassinated in 681, right? In 681. I trust other people can be able to follow this thought. You have the number 81 here, right? Some nice nuances. What does the number 81 represent?
I know it's the 81 priest when was a king wanted to enter into the place. When the king stopped him, tried to defend the place.
That's talking about the 81 there contextually is Russia, which is true at one level. But this 81 here, who kills him? It's the two princes, right? Who delivers a deadly wound to the papacy in 1798?
France.
Atheistic France, but specifically a tool on power, leading a dragon nation, right? France is a dragon, but specifically was a tool on power. Sodom in Egypt, France, because the United States is going to be key in causing the reproach offered by the papacy to cease at the close of human probation. But the dragon manifests itself differently, right? Who's the dragon when you get to the close of human probation? The United Nations. And what does Sister White call them? Kings. In Revelation 17, when she's commenting on how many kings are there?
10 kings.
The 10 kings. And she says this, it represents a what? An evil, a universal
Bond of union.
bond of human, but it's a
Confederation.
confederacy. So the 10 kings are a what?
Confederation.
Confederacy, right? Now, these are nuances, but the structure has been laid, right? The articles of
Confederation.
Confederation. How many presidents presided under the Articles of Confederation? 10 presidents, right? You follow? 10 presidents. And when was the Articles of Confederation formed initially? When was it ratified? 1781. Right? So it's not an accident that the princes that kill Sennacherib here are connected with the number 81. Because it's this let's go to Obadiah, chapter 1. Obadiah. Obadiah. You can show 7 thunders from Atalia to Hezekiah, or from Amaziah to Hezekiah. Elder Jeff has done it. Obadiah. Okay. Obadiah 1, verse 3 says this. He's talking about Edom. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, is the eagle a symbol of Rome?
Yes.
Yes. Daniel 7, lion with eagle's wings.
Yeah.
Deuteronomy 28, I'll send against their nation swift as an eagle. Right? And there's an exalting of self. So Edom in this case is a symbol of the papacy. Right? And thou that sit thy nest above among the stars, you remember he wants self-exaltation to the highest level. Thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. If thieves come to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Okay, let me skip that. Verse 7. All the men of thy what? Confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. And they that eat thy bread have laid a what? Wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. The papacy is wounded, receives a deadly wound at the close of probation by the men of his confederacy. You see that? The dogs eat Jezebel. The 10 kings shall hate the war. The men of the confederacy persecute the papacy. They wound the papacy here. This is the, maybe, I don't know if perfect fulfillment of, but for lack of a better term, this is the perfect fulfillment of the deadly wound, which the papacy is not going to recover from. The close of human probation. Because he prospers until the indignation be accomplished. From the indignation is accomplished at the close of probation. Right? You see, are we following the logic? And the number 81 is a symbol of the confederacy because you have these 2 sons in 681 murdering their father. Right? It's not an accident. And when you have the 2 sons in 1989, you've got Reagan and Bush. And Reagan became king became president in 1981. Bush the Great with these 2 sons. So you can see that principle pervading scripture. Right? So, so a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Here, Sennacherib is wounded. Right? So do we follow the line? Any questions before I put some other things in place? Welcome to take questions. If people are not understanding anything, we can repeat.
So, yeah. The 2 sons. This one, the 2 sons, they did what they made their father.
Yes, they assassinated him.
So, if we are marking them from 1989, is mark them as the 2 sons under the alliance, which will be 5%. Because from Ronald Reagan and George Bush the Great, you see the alliance of the pipe with them in the bypass till this time, as they became the armies of Rome. So that's how we use it, these 2 sons, like the one who made it with their father.
Yeah, because I'm mainly emphasizing on the principle of the activities of the end of the papacy at the close of probation is accomplished in 2 parts. In a sense that the United States is key in doing it because it's the leader of the 10 kings. But you've got the threefold union, right? Beast, dragon, and the false prophet. The dragon and the false prophet, in a sense, I'm identifying them as the 2 sons, right? They're the 2 sons here. Because for the papacy to fall, the dogs have to eat Jezebel's flesh, right? The 10 kings, but the 10 kings, the premier king of the 10 kings is the US. That's why you have a prince of fire identifying how the 10 kings shall burn their flesh, right? But you also have the glorious king, who's identifying the glorious kingdom, the glorious land, the United States. So showing you that the fall of the papacy here is accomplished by people of his own confederacy, right? People of his own confederacy. France was the eldest, firstborn of the Catholic Church, right?
Yeah.
They formed the confederacy, the papacy. But who killed them at the end of it all? France. So those who enter in confederacy with turn against the same principle identified here, as noted in scripture. Any other question? But we get the emphasis. This is a complete line. 1 Kings, 2 Kings 18 and 19. It's a whole Bible story that has like a lot of meaning. But just based on a study of the fortress. How you can show now, it becomes easier for someone who's skeptical to show them that the fortress is a symbol of the capital city. Because of the connection made by the Bible between 2 Kings 18 and 19 and Isaiah 7, 8 and 9. they're connected by some key phrases there, right? You see that, right? No questions. Are we understanding everything? Huh? Huh?
Like we just go back and study again.
Go, okay. Go back and say, we've got a few minutes, so questions would be good. Or contributions. If someone is seeing something that I didn't see, they can always put it there for our edification. You know.
Maybe you could just run through a summary of what, just to cement it on our minds, what you were trying to. Yeah, just a small summary.
Okay, so basically what the study is about is in understanding of Isaiah chapter 8. Isaiah chapter 8 is a prediction given by Isaiah. And Isaiah is predicting the king of the north, Assyria, overflowing and passing through Judah, but reaching only to the neck. But you can show that that prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled in 2 Kings 18 and 19. I haven't seen a passage, I haven't dug it up, I haven't taken time to look at where Sister White actually says that this prophecy in Isaiah 8 was fulfilled in 2 Kings. But I'm looking at it from the line upon line perspective, because there are connections there, right? And one of the connections is this. Isaiah chapter 8 talks about the neck. Isaiah chapter 7 talks about the head. But when the king of the north enters into, he tries to conquer the king of the south, he only gets up to the neck, not to the head, right, to the border. But you can see now, when you go to Isaiah chapter 9, it's a continuation of chapter 8. In Isaiah chapter 9, talks about, there's a key phrase, zeal of the Lord shall perform it. And when you run that phrase, zeal of the Lord, I'm convinced, if I'm not being too strong, that there are only two places where you find it identically, which is Isaiah 9 and 2 Kings 19. And if they're the only two places in the Bible, you have two witnesses of the same thing. Therefore, you have to treat them as the same line of thought. Right? You get my point? You have to, according to Miller's rule, bring the scriptures together on the same subject. Together. Zeal of the Lord of hosts shall perform it. Zeal of the Lord of hosts shall perform it. And you bring them together line upon line. And that phrase, zeal of the Lord of hosts, takes you to 2 Kings 19. You get my point? Therefore, when you're studying 2 Kings 19, you ought to study it in connection with Isaiah chapter 8 and 9. Because the only way you could have proof-texted zeal of the Lord of hosts, you could have arrived to 2 Kings 19, is either by an inspiration passage where Sister White says that Isaiah 8 was fulfilled in 2 Kings, or just by the proof-texting method of running zeal of the Lord there, zeal of the Lord there, and you bring them together, and they open up a complete line of truth. You get my point? So when you then go into 2 Kings 18 and 19, you see that the issue there is about the fortress. It's about the border, the capital city. Though it's emphasizing this reform line of Hezekiah is not about Russia. This Jerusalem, this Judah is not Russia. It's the church triumphant. But the principle is the same, because the principle being identified there is the fortress. Right? Like an example, Sister White can have a quote where she says, the tower, in the time of Christ, she says the tower is a symbol of the church. Right? And you can show that Christ is the tower. And Christ is the church, right? When we're doing the study of the tower. Isaiah chapter 8 says Christ is the sanctuary, and the sanctuary is the church, so it's the church. So you can show that the tower is a church. But this is identifying a godly tower, right? But those are one of the proof texts that we use to show that the tower in Genesis 11 is a symbol of a church. But is it a righteous tower? No, but it's a tower. You get my point? It's a tower. The principle that we're looking at there is tower. What's a tower a symbol of? A church, right? The papacy is the 8th kingdom in Revelation 17. And what does the number 8 represent in the Bible? A resurrection, right? But when you find it being used in the Bible, it's often used in the righteous. Because identifying circumcision, which is the seal, all those things. But the emphasis is on what the number 8 teaches, which is resurrection. Whether it's a satanic resurrection or godly resurrection, but it's about the principle that's being emphasized by the passage. You follow? So that's what we're doing our studies on the fortress. The fortress here is the church triumphant. It's the capital. The fortress in Daniel 11 is Russia. But the stories of the fortress line upon line have the same principle. Get the point? And there's grammatical connections in the chapters that help us make that conclusion without contradicting any rules.
So we're saying at first, like in 1989, it's the fortress of Russia, right? Then by the time you get to, is it close of probation? Where are you marking the fortress of the Church Triumphant?
Church Triumphant is progressive, but sadly no. This is where you have Jerusalem, the ensign, the capital city.
But the king of the north is not going, it's just going to the
He's not going to go into the Church Triumphant. Because he comes to his end between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. The glorious holy mountain is Jerusalem. It's the holy city, right?
So what could be the symbol of what would be the next symbolizing?
Well, I don't know, maybe it's just emphasizing that it doesn't go in.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there's other deeper meanings to that,
Alright.
but it's just emphasizing it doesn't go in.
Doesn't overcome.
Yeah, it doesn't overcome, right? He can attempt to come, because Sister White says the church may appear to fall. Like an example, if you are besieged in a city, doesn't it appear like you're about to fall? And the armies, the kings were assembled. There's a siege. Doesn't it look like you're about to fall? But then the kings suddenly flee. They only come up to the neck. Psalm 83, Jerusalem is about to be overcome, but they flee, which is a sign, right?
Okay. So, identifying Jerusalem, Ephraim as the south,
Judah.
Judah as the south, and we understand the battle now according to the 11 going over 10, 11. It's about the north and the south, king of the south and the king of the north. And we understood that the king of the south, the king of the north didn't go into the city to take the capital, but he just takes the countries, which is the borders. So now, under what we are saying now is this, the south as it is, we understand that the city, speaking of the not getting into the city, taking the city, because it's just end up between the seas and the city, and the holy city.
When you're looking at it from the Church Triumphant perspective.
I want you to give me the two different contexts of what we are saying between the 11 and also about the Isaiah 8:7-9. So now we know that here, midnight cries, we look at the battle of Peniam, we know that the king of the north definitely is going to come to the king of the south. And we start that now, the king of the south is going to be completely taken down. He'll never come again until we see another head that represents the king of the south. It's Sunday,
Well, I get you. I don't know if there's going to be another king of the south after Russia, but I know that the United Nations is Egypt. But I don't think it's the king of the south.
Okay, but
yeah.
you say the king of the south represents the dragon, or?
It's a dragon, but the dragon manifests itself differently.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's another sense. If there's United Nations, between the 3-4 union is the dragon, the beast, and the first prophet.
Yeah.
So somehow we must say the dragon here and the Sunday.
Yes, which is the 10 kings.
Which is the 10 kings represented by the United Nations. So meaning here, when the king of the south has been taken down, here we mark that the king of the north will come in and take down the king of the south here, which is Russia. Which before, in 1989, we didn't go in, but now we'll go in to take the king of the north, which is the king of the south. So, wanting now to understand it concerning Judah, Israel,
The Church
and also Assyria and Judah and Israel, how you going to, because you know that the king of the south is to stop not getting inside the city. So how do you?
Remember what we were discussing yesterday at church. Prophecy has got two lines, an internal and an external. Churches and seals, right? Churches and seals. Revelation chapter 6 is about seals. Revelation 2 and 3 is about the churches. Often you're going to find almost like identical characteristics in church and seals, right? So I'm looking at it from the perspective of the church and the seals. 2 Kings 18 and 19 is the church. It's internal, God's people, it's the church. But Daniel 11 is the seals, right? But the emphasis there is about the fortress. Because we shouldn't mix those symbols up. 2 Kings 18 and 19 is not Russia. But it's about the fortress, right? Remember, Miller says, you need to bring all scriptures together on the same subject, right? The subject is the fortress.
the fortress can be identified in different aspects when you're studying. You can be identifying the fortress of a kingdom, like Russia or whatever. But it can also be identifying the fortress of God's people. But the principle that we're looking at is, what does the fortress truth teach in the Bible? Though the fortress does not apply the same in every scenario, it doesn't mean that the church triumphant here is Russia, right? That's not what it's emphasizing. But it's teaching what the fortress is about. That there's a connection. When you run the phrase fortress, you're going to see that there's an